everybody. Jake Johnson here. And my headphones just died. So, how about that? I don't know what I'm going to do. I guess I'm going to have to listen to it from the speakers, which means you'll hear me and the speakers and him talking at the same time, which will be an echo. That might not be a good thing. We'll try it and see how it works, and if not, I'll locate some more headphones. How are you guys doing today? What a wonderful day. Let me see. 1 second. Trying to change the way he's heard. Hello. All right. I do apologize for not being clean shaven. I have a fever today and my skin is real sensitive and I didn't feel like shaving my face off. So you're going to have to deal with the whiskers. I am neck deep in the midst of a flu. I don't have the you-know-what, but I have the other you-know-what. And I've pretty much been in bed for the past 3 days. But I wouldn't miss the podcast for nothing or nobody's money. So I'll sit up here and sweat my nads off and combat the atheist like I'm ought to. Let's see who's with us today. We got somebody with us. Hello, somebody. I'll just shoot the shit and look around and see if I can't find another set of headphones while we wait. I know I got some around here somewhere. Let's see if there's any in this drawer here. Maybe. Don't need that. I got too many things. All right. Let's try these first. Chances are these are all dead headphones from my kids. But if I can find a pair that works, we're in business. I guess if it can go wrong, it will, huh? Oh, Murphy's Law. Well, let's see. See what the man says.
Genesis 14. It's time.
No sound.
For the game.
All right. So what's going to have to happen here is I'm going to have to play him through my sound system, which means you're going to hear it. I'm going to try to keep my microphone away from the speakers so it doesn't echo you to death, but it might. If it does, just let me know and we'll do something else. All right. Maybe having my microphone down low will keep it from hearing my speakers too clearly. Still only one person. Who's with us? Do we have a secret person in the back hiding? Oh, there's Kevin. What's up, buddy? I'm having a bad day. My headphones just broke on me. And I've got the flu. My battery's dead on my bike, so I can't go to the store, get some medicine, and other things. Just a bad day all the way around. That's okay, though. I'm here. I'm here, and I'm alive. Live and in color. April's getting on it in a minute. Hey, April. I'm neck deep in the flu right now, so don't breathe around me. Everybody keeps telling me, you got the COVID, you got the COVID. And I'm like, no, I don't. I have the flu. I know the difference. If I had the COVID, I'd be in the hospital. I've got the flu. I'm running a fever. That's it. A little bit of pleurisy in my left lung. That's all. Otherwise, I feel like a brand new born baby. Damn, Kevin, I don't need you to speak for me. Are you in a good mood today, April? It's not COVID. I'm pretty sure of it. I've been being prone to being sick this year. I've been kind of getting it and passing it around between everybody and then getting it again when they're done with it. I don't think it's COVID. Yeah, I just got a little fever. It's not even a high one. It's just, you know, one of those that make you feel like you've been beat up, like you called Mike Tyson a sissy. It's one of those. Probably 100 degrees. Enough to make me cold. I got the heat on right now and I'm shivering. But I've been taking Alka-Seltzer and Bear aspirin. Well, let's see. No. Have you been hanging around the Florida Gators? No, I heard they lost, though. I heard the Rays won. Thank you, baby. I can use all the prayer I can get. No, there's something going on with me for sure, but it isn't the COVID. It's probably something else. But I do not care. I will keep moving one foot in front of the other until I can no longer do that. And then I'll crawl with my little finger if I have to. And when I can no longer do that, I'll look aggressively into the direction I want to go. And when I can no longer do that, y'all can bury me. Sports update. The Dogs lost to Alabama last night. The Rays won and are headed to the World Series. Congratulations, Rays. Hey, Darlene. As I said earlier, my headphones broke, so the only way I can do this tonight is to play the guy through my sound system, which means you're going to hear him through my speakers, through my microphone, and it may sound echoey, and I'm going to hope that it's not unbearable. And I have to get another set of headphones. That's what you get for buying cheap headphones. Just one little snag, and they just stop working. I didn't even pull them hard. I just kind of snagged them a little, and they just stopped working. Probably that fine wire that's in there probably broke. The Gators game against LSU was postponed due to COVID. Of course it was. Gators did not play. Honestly, I hate the team, but not the players. They need prayer. They will get through it safely. We'll pray for them. That's what we're here for. That's what our community is about. Prayer and knowledge. And the knowledge of prayer. Yay, Alabama, woohoo. Hooray, so sorry, Kev. The dogs suck. Hey, I'm from Georgia. Watch your mouth. The Bucks won and beat the Packers 38-10. Go Bucks. Wow. Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the rise. Is that the Bucks you're referring to? Or did I get that wrong? To let you in on a little secret, I know nothing about sports. Not even a little bit. I don't do competition ball very well. You're messing with Kevin. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That just shows you I don't know anything about sports. Man, my hairline is going for the north, isn't it? Headed up. Look at that. This side's even worse. Hiding up under there. Look at that. That makes 2 games now. Woohoo. New coach, awesome. The Braves and the Dodgers are playing a game. 7 of the NLDs. The winner goes to the World Series against the Rays. The World Series starts Tuesday at 8:06. Go Rays. Well, if they won this time around, surely they got the juice to go all the way. That just in from our sports commentator, Kev the Peacock. Enough with the football, man. Damn. Let's get into some religion. 2 things you never talk about, sports and religion. Let's do it. Tell me if this is tolerable.
Genesis 14. It's time for the Game of Thrones Bible edition. And just like the show,
Game of Thrones stole their idea from the Bible. It's kind of the other way around. Sorry.
The ending is weird. Get ready for the Battle of Sodom and Gomorrah. At the time when Amraphel was king of Shinar, Arioch, king of Elaser, Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim, these kings went to war against Bera, king of Sodom, Birsha, king of Gomorrah, Shinak, king of Admah, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is, Zoar. All these latter kings joined forces in the valley of Siddim, that is, the Dead Sea Valley. For 12 years, they had been subject to Chedorlaomer, but in the 13th year, they rebelled. Have you ever watched a movie where, like, an hour into it, you were suddenly introduced to new characters, as if you were supposed to be keeping track of them all along? Somehow, we got done with genealogies and got thrown right into a literal war between people who didn't matter until just this moment.
Okay, number 1, this is not a movie. This is a history lesson. It goes from the beginning to the end, and it's a history lesson about people. There were a lot of people born in those days, which means if it's a very long story, there's going to be a lot of characters involved. This is not a fictional play. This is an actual history of the events that occurred in the days they occurred, which means you're going to learn a lot of things you didn't know before. You're going to be introduced to people that weren't there before. You're going to go back and learn things about people that you've already learned about but didn't hear that particular version of the story. It's just how the nature of people are.
What the hell happened in year 13 anyway? What were these people putting up with for 12 years until they finally snapped? I'll bet it was the rule about abstinence before marriage.
I bet it wasn't. I bet it was passing babies through fire and worshiping Baal.
In the 14th year, Chedorlaomer and the kings allied with him went out and defeated the Rephaites in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Zuzites in Ham, the Emites in Shavi Kiriathaim, and the Horites in the hill country of Seir, as far as El Paran, near the desert. Then they turned back and went to En Mishpat, that is Kadesh. And
remember Kadesh, that's an important city that will come into play later in the Bible.
They conquered the whole territory of the Amalekites, as well as the Amorites who were living in Hazazon Tamar.
Remember the Amorites, they will be destroyed in the Bible, and there's a reason for it.
That is a very long way to say Chedorlaomer won a lot of battles against other characters who are...
There were pharaohs in those days, yes, but there have been pharaohs for thousands of years. Every time one dies, another one takes his place, and there's actually two separate sections. There's Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt, and both have a pharaoh at some points in time. They've eventually come together as one, but for a while they were two separate countries.
Also brand new to the story. Good for him! I think I can no longer figure out who I'm supposed to be rooting for.
Who says you're supposed to be rooting for anybody? This is a history lesson. There's good and bad people all over the place. Ultimately, this is a story about one family from beginning to end, from Adam to Jesus. But there's lots of people involved throughout the storyline. They're not all good people. They're not all going to do the right thing. They're not all going to do what God told them to do. But you seem to think that because man makes a decision that it's God's fault. You seem to think God loves slavery. I would like for you to show me in the Bible where God says you should make man slaves. He reports it, but he doesn't request it. It's man's doing that did that. God just went along with it. Where in the Bible does it say that God said, do the first sacrifice? That's man's idea. God just went along with it. Said, here's the rules. If you're going to do it, you got to do it right. But it was man's idea to cover sin with blood. And God said, well, okay, well, if you're going to do it, you got to do it a specific way. And you got to stick to it. So every single time, it was man's idea that wanted a male king to rule over them when they already had a king in the Father. They wanted a God they could see. So they asked for a king. They didn't want to wait for God to tell them what to do because they were just like you, impatient, immoral, and immature, and uneducated, and had no idea what was coming down the pike. So they asked for things that they didn't know what they had need of. Or they asked for things in ignorance. When God knew better, he allowed them to do their own thing because that's the nature of free will, and they paid the price every time. So, I don't understand what your problem is.
How many people does this guy need to kill anyway? And why? It's not like we're told why they're coming after him. For all we know, they were just minding their own business, and this guy just invades their homes and murders them.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's usually what happens when somebody invades a home. There's other people just minding their own business. Nobody ever does anything to deserve that, right?
By the way, this section says they conquered all the Amalekites, but in Genesis chapter 36, we're going to learn about someone named Amalek, who was apparently born after his people were supposedly killed.
Are you ready for this? There were more than one Amalekite. There was more than one Amalek. Said that wrong. It's a popular name in those days. The Amalekites are not the offspring of all Amaleks. Only one.
Creepy. Then the king of Sodom, the king of Gomorrah, the king of Admah, the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, that is Zoar, marched out and drew up their battle lines in the valley of Siddim against Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goyim, Amraphel, king of Shinar, and Arioch, king of Elaser.
Interestingly enough, Goyim is what the Jewish people call other people. It means cattle. And they think themselves higher than other people. They think themselves as the cattle ranchers, and we are the cattle to be cattled and herded. By the way, how is the echo? Is it too bad? Is it tolerable? Can you hear the guy? Yes, Kadesh will come into play around the time of Solomon and the Amorites, spelled with an A, are a people that will be conquered by God, as do several other people in the Bible, peoples. But there's a reason for it. We'll get to that. Answer me. How is the echo? You hearing fine? Sounds good. Okay, thanks.
4 kings against 5. Now the valley of Siddim was full of tar pits, and when the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fled, some of the men fell into them, and the rest fled to the hills. Some of the men fell into tar pits. That is a very specific and totally cartoonish death scene.
And it happens a lot when you have tar pits.
I will admit, I'm a bit surprised that the first mention of a sodomite and fluid was not what I expected. The 4 kings...
I bet it wasn't. You need to check yourself and have that looked into, buddy.
...seized all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food. Then they went away. They also carried off Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom.
As is customary, when you defeat somebody, you get the spoils of war. That's how it works. When you defeat an army, you take what's theirs. It becomes yours. Sometimes you take them. Sometimes you kill them. Sometimes it's more profitable to use them as slaves. That's how war works. It's still going on to this day, so clearly it works very well.
These kings took over these cities, grabbed food, and then thought, oh crap, don't forget Lot, he's rich. But now we know why this story matters.
That's not why they took him, by the way.
In the course of this war, Lot was captured. They could have just said that from the beginning. Anyway, now Abram has to go rescue him. A man...
They didn't say it at the beginning because it hadn't happened yet at the beginning. It happened now, which is why they're talking about it now. Try to keep up.
Who had escaped came and reported this to Abram the Hebrew. Now Abram was living near the great trees of Mamre the Amorite, a brother of Eshcol and Aner, all of whom were allied with Abram. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken captive, he called out the 318 trained men born in his household and went in pursuit as far as Dan. During the night, Abram divided his men to attack them, and he routed them, pursuing them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus.
Now he's going to mention this in a minute about the town Dan, how it's named after one of Abram's sons who hasn't been born yet, so how could they know that it was called Dan? One of 2 things could be happening here, just so you, for clarification's sake. Either the person who wrote this book used the name Dan so you would know, the reader would know specifically where the place was he was talking about, or Dan was named after the city. Either way, it's not a deal breaker for me. Also not a contradiction.
He recovered all the goods and brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, together with the women and the other people. Abram created a slave army of 318 men to go after entire countries.
Where did you read that it was a slave army? Did it not say that all 300 men were born into his house? Those aren't slaves. Those are people in his family. Those are cousins and brothers and nephews and buddies and things like that. And by the way, you should have seen those men. They were big men, strong men, warriors.
That sounds like he's just leading his people into their own slaughter. But somehow they
won. So he didn't lead them into their own slaughter. You're wrong again.
Won. Because God loves Abram.
Yes, he does.
God also loves slaves and revenge.
No, man loves slave and revenge. God just goes along with it because man does it regardless of what God tells them to do.
There's no story with that victory either. No fight scene, no near-death experiences. It's just, he recovered everything.
300 dudes went up against an army with a king and won. You don't think there was a battle involved? You don't think that those 300 dudes whipped some serious medieval ass in those days? Yes, they did. Sorry if you didn't get the memo, but they had a fight.
It's just so anticlimactic after that huge buildup. And did you see how they recovered everything important? Goods, lot stuff, and women? Like women were an afterthought.
No, like women were part of the important things. Women are important because without women, you don't get more people.
One last thing. The passage says these soldiers went all the way to Dan. They're talking about a city with that name, obviously, except the person it was named after, Dan, who we'll meet in Genesis 30, hasn't been born yet. It's like Shakespeare writing a play set in New England.
Maybe Abram was so fond of the work they did in Dan that he named one of his sons after the city to remember the battle. Maybe it was pride. You ever thought about that? Or maybe the person writing the story wrote the story years after the event, after Dan had already been born in a city named after him.
Like, the war hasn't happened yet, dude. You can't do that. After Abram returned from defeating Chedorlaomer and the kings allied with him, the king of Sodom came out to meet him in the valley of Shavi, that is, the king's valley. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of
Melchizedek, king of Salem. Salem means peace. He was a priest of God Most High and blessed Abram, saying, this guy Melchizedek, this word Melchizedek is built from two words, Mecca and Zadok. What it boils down to is this is the anointed one. You can look it up. I don't have it on the top of my head right now because I wasn't expecting to hear the name, but Melchizedek is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. There's only one person in the Bible that fits that title, and that's Jesus Christ. I just thought that it would be interesting to point out that dichotomy here because this man Melchizedek is only mentioned a couple of times in the Bible, and he's held to high esteem, and Abram worshipped it and paid tithes to him. So, who was Melchizedek? I think it was Jesus, or a version of Jesus. Also, Jesus said when he was before the Pharisees that before Abraham was, I am. He didn't misspeak. That's not a mistranslation, and he didn't say the wrong phrase. He used the word I am, which means God Almighty, the Alpha and the Omega to the Hebrews, to describe himself, which is why they accused him of blasphemy in the first place, because he used those words about himself. And he said, before Abraham was, I am. Guess who else was before Abraham? Melchizedek. It's just one of those little things that are like screaming, hey, look here. This is a road sign. That guy, he's important. So keep that in mind.
God Most High, and he blessed Abram, saying, blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and praise be to God Most High, who delivered your enemies into...
You ever heard the phrase, Assalamu alaikum? The word Salem is in that. And it means peace be unto you.
Your hand. Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything. A tenth of everything!
That's called
for
a
a
tithe.
blessing.
That's called a tithe. When you give 10% of your earnings, that's a tithe. He gave it to Melchizedek. Why was he doing that? Because Melchizedek was ministering unto him. That's the only reason you would give a tithe.
Not worth it. I would have passed. In a later book of the Bible, Hebrews chapter 7, Melchizedek is described as someone who has no father and no mother, and someone who has just been around forever, and
That would be Jesus. Correct.
someone who will never die. That seems both implausible and like something we should have been told up front.
You were. Right here in Genesis, first book.
The king of Sodom said to Abram, give me the people and keep the goods for yourself. But Abram said to the king of Sodom, with raised hand I have sworn an oath to the Lord, God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, that I will accept nothing belonging to you. not even a thread or the strap of a sandal, so that you will never be able to say, I made Abram rich.
Now, why do you think that he says this? Why would Abram be so adamant about not taking anything from Sodom or Gomorrah? Could it be because he knows their fate? Could it be because they're evil people and they're bound to be destroyed? I'd say it might be.
I will accept nothing but what my men have eaten and the share that belongs to the men who went with me. To Aner, Eshcol, and Mamre, let them have their share. This section is supposed to show us how humble Abram is, but it's really showing his arrogance. He doesn't want their stuff, not because he doesn't need it, but because he doesn't want to give them the satisfaction of saying they gave it to him. It's like people refusing to wear face masks in a pandemic because it would mean admitting the scientists had a point. They won't do it even if it's to their benefit.
I think you should probably check into that, because the scientists, unlike the Democrats on TV that you've been listening to, have said not once, but 3 times that you should not wear masks. The most recent one was about a week ago, and Twitter scrubbed it off of their server. It was by the doctor of the White House. Now, the N95 mask that is sold most in America is rated for the use of 1 hour. Also, it is not to keep you from getting sick. The only purpose is to keep you from spitting on other people if you're sick. That's the only reason to wear a mask, if you're sick. It cannot stop you from getting the sickness, as it is airborne, and the droplets are very small and will go right through that mask. They'll also go into your eyes and your ears, on your hands, in your mouth. Not only if you wear a mask for a long period of time, you notice how the mask gets wet because you're breathing in and out moisture. Well, that wet spot is a mop for germs, and all the germs will stick to that wet spot, and you will suck them right into your mouth. So you should probably look into the actual science that you're touting, because you don't know what you're talking about. You're repeating Democrat garbage. You're not repeating science.
Also, Abram still has his sister wife, and he seems to have no problem making money with her body. I told you this would end weirdly. Just like the final season of Game of Thrones, the Bible needs a rewrite.
No, it doesn't.
Genesis.
The Bible is perfectly well within its rights to say what it says.
Genesis 15. God tells Abram that babies will come out of his butt.
No,
hey, don't blame me. I did not write this book. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, what can you give me, since I remain childless? And the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram said, You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir. Yeah, God, you made me rich. You saved my life in battle. But you haven't given me children, and now a slave is going to get all my stuff.
Well, you see, God originally promised Abraham that he would have many children. That was part of his covenant with Abraham. So Abraham is reminding him that he made that promise. And it's been a long time. And as you well know, when you live a long time, you begin to wonder if God's paying attention. He is, and God does all things in his own time. But we don't know that, so we get nervous. And we have to pray sometimes. That's what Abraham's doing here. Nothing more.
So what the hell? What a rich little whiner. And why does God get credit for being Abram's shield?
Because God is Abram's shield. God protected him and delivered him out of every battle. That would be a shield.
I would think the slave army of 318 people we saw in the last chapter had something to do with the victory.
God shielded them too, which is why they had the victory. 300 against an army? That's not normal.
But here's God swooping in to remind everyone he's the real hero. Then the word of the Lord came to him. This man will not be your heir. but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir. He took him outside and said, look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. Then he said to him, so shall your offspring be. How many stars are there?
Bunches and bunches and bunches. And how many people are there? Have been and will be. Bunches and bunches and bunches.
Billions and billions? That's how many kids this guy's gonna have, which means he should get working on that.
Well, no, because he's not physically going to sire every one of them. They're going to come from his offspring. He only needs to have one child. And that child will have children, and their children will have children. That's how population works.
Now, I have 2 kids and I can't get anything done.
You're not Abraham. Sorry.
Abram is in for quite a shock around child 100,000. Actually, it's been said you could see maybe 3,000 stars at any one time in perfect conditions. But
that's not true. But even if it were, that number doesn't relate whatsoever to what God's saying to Abraham. You're just making a straw man argument here. Has nothing to do with what's being said. He's talking about the whole of the amount of stars. Doesn't matter whether he can actually see them or not. He said, if you can in fact see them all, that's how many you're going to get, is as many stars as there are, whether you can see them all or not.
Didn't God say Abram's number of kids would equal the number of dust particles?
He did.
That's wrong. And also,
it's not wrong. I defy you to count up how many people have existed in the world and will exist in the world and exist right now currently in the world, and tell me how that number stacks up against the amount of dust particles there are. And he said grains of sand, not dust particles, by the way. Dust particles, as you know, is dead skin. Grains of sand, as you know, comes from fish.
so thousands of kids is still too many. I will go far as to say hundreds of kids are too many. You know what? Dozens of kids are too many.
Maybe for you, not for Abraham.
Somewhere, the Duggar family is reading these numbers and they're jealous.
Probably.
But here's the amazing thing. Other versions of the Bible translate God's words here by saying Abram's heir will be someone who comes forth out of thine own bowels.
Now you see, there's your big mistake right there. You're not smart enough to realize that there is a superior translation that has been kept clean from Antioch till now, which is the King James Version. And there are inferior scriptures, like the one you're referring to, that mistranslate things on purpose. Now, the Bible doesn't say that what you're saying happened. Your other version says it, and your other version is incorrect. And your belief in it shows that you're incorrect. So you should probably check out what the actual version says and compare it. And stop trying to teach people that's what the Bible says.
Seriously, he's gonna have a rectum baby.
Also, that's not what bowels mean. Not in those days.
Which is not how babies work. Imagine having thousands of butt babies. I know conservative Christians oppose sex education, but this is what happens when you don't know that stuff.
We do not oppose sex education. We oppose sex education in school for grade schoolers. There's a difference there. We very well want to teach our children about sex, just not that early, and not by a stranger.
Remember when Eve was created out of Adam's rib? Turns out that's not even close to the weirdest form of birth in Genesis.
That wasn't birth.
Abram believed the Lord, and he...
You see, there's another straw man. That was not birth, that was creation. Adam and Eve were created by the Creator. Everyone else was born. Big difference.
credited it to him as righteousness. He also said to him, I am the Lord who brought you out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give you this land to take possession of it.
Yep.
But Abram said, Sovereign Lord, how can I know that I will gain possession of it? So the Lord said to him, Bring me a heifer, a goat, and a ram, each 3 years old, along with a dove and a young pigeon. What the?
That's called a sacrifice.
Hell? What sort of orgy are we planning here? I need you, your best friend, 3 infant llamas, a dying giraffe, and some baby oil. Some people just have faith. Others need a bunch of baby animals and birds.
Now, you're being a little sarcastic here, I can tell. But other people don't need those things. This was a direct request from God. Of course he's going to comply. He didn't need that thing. He didn't ask to give a sacrifice. God asked him to. So he did. There's a big difference. Like you always do, you pretend not to know what's up, and then a couple of verses later, you say what's up as if it's a surprise to you.
For some reason, before they'll trust God. But at least Abram will take care of these animals, right? No. Abram brought all these to him, cut them in two, and arranged the halves opposite each other.
How do you think a sacrifice works? You have to kill the animal. That's the sacrifice.
The birds, however, he did not cut in half. Then birds of prey came down on the carcasses, but Abram drove them away. He cut those animals in half?
Yes.
What was the point of that?
To sacrifice them to God. Which is why he didn't let the birds of prey eat them, because they were meant for a sacrifice.
I swear, the Bible should make you all vegetarians.
Stop right there. The Bible did make everyone all vegetarians, you moron. Read the Bible again. Start back in the beginning of Genesis. Nuts and seeds and herbs. That's what all things ate. It wasn't until the flood that men became carnivores. Because then they needed the calories and the energy to build cities and to repopulate the earth and to survive the harshness of a world that was not provided for by God anymore.
Abel already sacrificed one animal in Genesis chapter 4. God killed off all the animals that were not on Noah's ark. Noah sacrificed one of each clean animal that was still on the ark,
yes.
And still God is not satisfied.
That's why he brought them. And by the way, every single sacrifice that occurs is to cover sin that occurred. That's why God's not satisfied, because men keep sinning and keep needing to sacrifice to atone for that sin. It's not God's doing. God didn't ask for men to sin. He told them what to and what not to do very clearly. It's man that does these things, and then man needs to atone for those sins to be right with God. All this is the nature of things before Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ became the sacrifice for one and all times, which means that we no longer need the sacrifice. So God was thinking about it, and he did give his only son so that we didn't have to do that anymore.
There is something seriously wrong with him. Why were the birds spared? I hope it's because Abram couldn't catch them. And
it's because they were burnt whole, not because they were part of the sacrifice. And he probably ate them.
What would have happened if the birds of prey ate the carcasses? Would God have wanted more animals to sacrifice?
Yes.
Or would God have said, "Oh no! Ah well, I guess I'll have to make my point without rotting flesh near me."
It was fresh flesh, not rotting, and that's not how God works. So stop trying to humanize God with your sarcasm.
As the sun was setting, Abram fell into a deep sleep, and a thick and dreadful darkness came over him. Then the Lord said to him, "Know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and that they will be enslaved and mistreated there. But I will punish the nation they serve as slaves, and afterward they will come out with great possessions. You, however, will go to your ancestors in peace and be buried at a good old age. In the 4th generation, your descendants will come back here, for the sin of the Amorites has not yet reached its full measure."
Yeah, the Amorites did some really bad things, and they were punished for a very long time. And when their time is up, when the punishment was up for their sin, then the Hebrews were set free from Egypt, and they came out in the form of the Exodus, which is going to happen later in the Bible. And that's what he's referring to here, is the Exodus. All of those people are descendants of Abraham.
A thick and dreadful darkness would come over me too if I knew what was going to go through my intestines in the near future. That's an odd dream, by the way. God tells him, listen, everyone that comes out of your butt will be a slave for centuries. But relax, I'm going to punish the country eventually, and then those slaves are going to be rich. If God knows all that, why not just stop it?
Because there's no richnesses to be had at this moment. In order to give them the richnesses, it has to be there, which means they have to go through a period of time where they make those riches. You understand how this works? The Egyptians build cities. They are a working class people. They build pyramids, they build cities, they mine for gold and tin and copper, they do technology. They have all kinds of stuff that is going to be given to the Israelites as a promise kept by God. What's the best way to get them there? To have them to be part of the nation. What's the best way to do that? To have them as the slaves. That's just the way it worked.
God is knowingly letting innocent people become slaves for 400 years before he takes revenge on the nations. And how come all-knowing God didn't warn Abram that Lot would be kidnapped in the last chapter?
He just warned him of it, just now.
These are very selective psychic abilities, and Abram will be buried
prophecies given by God.
At a good old age? What is that now? I thought the limit was 120. I mean, that's not a bad run, but it kind of sucks compared to...
Well, Abraham wouldn't have lived 120 because he was alive when men lived 800, 900 years. It's the offspring that will begin to start living that shorter lifespan, not the ones who were there already. So try to understand how time works.
Everyone else we've heard about so far. When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, a smoking fire pot with a blazing torch appeared and passed between the pieces. On that day, the Lord made a covenant with Abram and said, "To your descendants I give this land, from the Wadi of Egypt to the great river the Euphrates, the land of the Kenites, Kenizzites, Cadmonites, Hittites, Perizzites, Rephaites, Amorites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and Jebusites." Well, Abram, better get cracking on all those babies so they can take over all this space.
Now, notice all of those names that were mentioned are all people who get conquered in the Bible. Now, why did God give them that land? Because those people were bad people. Some of them weren't even human, like the Amorites and the Hittites. We'll get into that when we get there. But they're not supposed to be there. So God conquers them and takes their land from them, and then he gives it to Abraham's children, whom are in those lands to this very day.
Try some squats. Whenever random, unnecessary animal sacrifice isn't even close to the weirdest thing in the chapter, you know you're entering a messed up section of the Bible.
Well, that was informative. Please like, subscribe, and share. Press the bell icon so you get notifications when I'm going to be online. Follow one of the links in the description below. Get yourself a t-shirt or whatever you want to do. But if you really want to support the ministry and you want to help us grow, go to paypal.me/JakeJohnsonBand. That's the best way to do it. It's tax write-off and it helps us out a bunch. Sure to appreciate it. Thank you for your support. All right. Question and answer time. What did you guys get out of this short little couple of verses? Oh, and are you ready for tomorrow where we continue Matthew? I feel sorry for this man when he stands before God, as do I. And he will do so. Believe that. I can't help but laugh. Wow. Smile, Jake. You're doing great. And I wish I felt like smiling, honey. I'm barely holding it together. But I'm getting there. Way to go, Jake. Thank you, dear. I got mad. Well, there's no need in getting mad. The guy's wrong. You know he's wrong. I'm correcting him, setting the record straight. So be happy. Be happy he's got somebody to set him straight. He could go through life believing this stuff, but instead God gave him somebody to set him straight. and his listeners, which even if they troll me, they'll get something out of, and it'll seep in, and they'll start thinking about it, and maybe in the future, that seed will start to grow. So that's good. Yeah, I can't stand he's teaching people this crap either. Your confidence has made me happy. Aw, thank you. It's not confidence. I just know where my butter's bread. My bread is buttered. I can talk. I'm not having a stroke. It's not confidence. It's faith. You cannot stand the sarcasm. Well, don't I do a good job of throwing it back at him? I'm hot. I'm cold. I'm hot. I'm cold. I'm hot. I'm cold. I feel like I'm pregnant. Thank you very much. Yeah. I'm trying to. I'm going to go through all of them. So far, he's got about 40 videos out. I'm going to hit every one of them. Concerning Genesis anyway. He's got other videos too that I'm not going to bother with, but the Genesis ones I'm going to hit. And who knows, if he keeps going, I may keep going. I don't know. I don't want to do this forever, but I want to make my point clear and known. I'm no sire. I'm just a dude. I did sire once, twice, 3 times a lady. What you think, Kev? He has a big problem with the simplicity of the Bible. I see this often. God made the Bible so easy to understand that a child could understand. I believe that the devil makes it hard for people. I do too. I think very seriously that he puts a delusion on some people that refuse to see truth for what it is and refuse to accept the answer when it's given to them. Kadesh. I'm not sure how it's spelled. Well, Kadesh is a city, and it will come into play later in the Bible, and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I just wanted you to be aware of it, to just notice that that was there. Grandma said it all the time. Yep. Yes, sirree. Well, I had a couple of battles with her too, but mostly just because of the teaching that was happening in the day, and a lot of people fell for that. And it's not that she was wrong, it's just that she was getting the wrong information. I had another cousin of mine say, well, my mama so-and-so believed this all the days of her life, and I'm not going to go back on that. If it was good enough for her, it was good enough for me. Well, unfortunately, it's wrong. I know she believed it. I believed it too for a long time. It's just not right. And there's no fault in her for believing it because that's what was taught to her. But if you read the actual Bible and understand it with the ears to hear and the eyes to see, you find out quickly that there's some things that ain't right. And what I'm referring to is the rapture doctrine, which happened in the 1800s, not in the Bible. It can be traced back to a female named Mary McDonald. You should look into her. She was a nutcase and lived in a mental institution. And she had a wicked dream, and there were a couple of priests there. And they wrote down what she said when she woke up from the dream. And then from that came the rapture doctrine. You can find those books online still that teach that stuff. Even the priests that were there said that it felt evil at the time. They just had to write it down. Also, they were priests, and you know how I feel about Catholics. or Catholicism. Not the Catholic people, but the thing that they're taught. So, there has been a lot of deception in this world. But the Bible is easy to understand. It's very clear, precise, and to the point. It makes known all that needs to be known at any given moment. It does not need interpretation. It does not need a preacher to stand up there and tell you about his life story or anything of the sort. All it needs is to be read and understood. You don't need me. You don't need anybody else. You can do it yourself. Use me as an inspiration to seek out and find the information that you didn't think of before. It's my job to point it out, but it's your job to go find it. That's why I'm not a preacher, just a teacher. That's why I refuse to pretend like I'm somebody I'm not, just to gain audience. I've had people question me about that too already. Why you smoke on TV? Because I smoke. And I wanted a cigarette. Does that make me a sinner? Does that make me incapable of reading? Does that hurt the words that come out of my mouth? No. That is an establishment idea, that I'm supposed to be wearing a suit and tie and be all prim and proper and clean and all of that stuff. None of that matters. That's all icing on the cake. None of that matters. What matters is the truth. What matters is the Word of God and the understanding of it. And I'm doing my best to illustrate it. And I hope that you'll follow me along while I do it. If there's too much for you that I wear a regular button down, smoke cigarettes, and drink Mountain Dew, then maybe your priorities might be in the wrong place. Maybe you want to belong to a club rather than learning the truth of God. Y'all don't mind me, I'm sick and just irritated. Crotchety today. Just talking trash. The Amorites, by the way, are a peculiar people. They're mentioned a couple times in the Bible, and then they're utterly destroyed. Amorites, Amalekites, Hittites, several of them. One of them God told, I believe it was Joshua, but I have to get back to it. I don't remember exactly right off the top of my head, and we'll get to it as we go in the Bible anyway. He told whoever to go in and kill every living thing, man, woman, child, and animal, leave nothing alive, because the whole place was corrupt. Many people overthink the Bible. I would advise anyone not to get into the scholarly debates, as, in my opinion, deflect on the true meaning. The devil will try to make you stray. That's true. That is true. And if you're not scholarly backed, you should not be involved in a scholarly debate. That's correct. You must have an education to stand up and fight. By the way, every city in the Bible has been proven to exist by archaeologist digs. Dig it? That's true. All of them, and they're right where the Bible said they were. It's that BCE stuff that tries to make it sound like it ain't the right place, because it's in the wrong time. But their time scale is incorrect on purpose. It's the mainstream scholars trying to discredit God by putting the things that are found in the wrong place. Don't go by BCE, go by BC. And you'll find that the dates just kind of line up, and everything is right where the Bible said it was, down to the details. If there was a stable, you'll find a stable. If there was a palm tree, you'll find a palm tree. If there were 3 palm trees, you'll find 3 of them. If there was a well, you'll find it. It's there, right where it said it was. And it wasn't that long ago, a couple thousand years. The city of Zion is the most important find, and they have it right now and refuse to believe that that's what it is. That's where the new temple goes, in the city of Zion, the city of David, which is in the city limits of Jerusalem right now. But they think it goes on the Dome of the Rock because of some rabbi 700 years ago said he was told in a dream that that's where it went. And they believed him. Well, they could start building it right now if they knew that they had the city of David already in their possession. They have already got everything, including the cornerstone, all of the furniture, all of the garb, the regalia. They got schools teaching people how to do the rituals. They got everything. They got a team of priests. All they're waiting for is the place to start to build. That's it. And they just don't know that they have it already. Maybe they'll watch this podcast and go, oh, get to work. And I'd be okay with that, because that means that our Father's coming back quick. Because after that, things are going to get nasty fast. And it'll get worse before it gets better, but it will get better. Way better. Jesus will come back. And then people will say, well, how do we know when it's going to happen? I was like, you'll know. Well, how will we know? You'll know. How will we know? Well, for one, there will be no sun and no moon. That's the biggest one. That's the last one. When you look up and there's no sun or moon, look for him coming forthwith. And no stars. Don't believe me? Read Revelations. Read Daniel. Yep. Gotta have it. It's coming. You can believe it. If you look around, things are already happening that the Bible talks about. They've been happening for the last 1,000 years. Ain't nothing slowing down. Not anytime soon. Sons will turn against fathers, and daughters against mothers, parents against children. There'll be locust armies in the street. Things will be on fire. There'll be earthquakes and tornadoes and hurricanes in diverse places. There'll be wars and rumors of wars, and on and on and on and on and on. There will be no doubt of it. Correct. When he comes upon you like a thief in the night, I believe it will be soon. I do too. I don't believe it'll be in my lifetime, but I believe it will be soon. I believe it'll be in my children's lifetime. I think they'll see it. Quite possibly their children, but I think them. I don't think me. I think I'll die before it happens. Which is a good thing, because then I won't have to live through it. I'll already be there. It's not scary at all, honey. From the beginning of time, that's what was intended to happen. It's always been coming. The ultimate choice is whether you're going to follow Jesus or follow Satan. From the sound of it, you've already made that choice, so you're in the clear. Doesn't matter what happens to you next. Doesn't matter if they come into your house and behead you. You will be with Christ. That's what matters. And they may do that. It's going to come down to that eventually. Right now, they're just shooting Trump supporters in the head, but pretty soon they're going to start persecuting Christians for real. And when they do, if you get caught being a Christian, you'll probably get beheaded. Or you can deny God. I wouldn't do that if I were you, but that's what'll happen. You'll be given the choice. Choose God. Trust me on that. And what'll happen will hurt for a minute. Probably not at all. It'll probably be quick. But that, against eternity, unparalleled. Don't let it freak you out. Take comfort in it. Take comfort in knowing that you've been saved and that you are with God. Good. Never deny God. Never allow his enemies to win. Not even a little bit, not even an inch. Stand your ground. Be who you are. Don't go looking for a fight, but if it comes to you, stand your ground. Mentally, I mean. I don't mean violently, I mean mentally. Say who you are and mean what you say. And say what you mean. Grit your teeth and walk straight into it. I promise it'll be over fast. And then you can move on to greener pastures. Things that you can't even imagine. A world that you can't even imagine. An existence that will never end. Yeah, I don't either. But it's more than likely going to happen at some point. It may not happen to us, but it's going to happen. But the thing you can take comfort in is once you leave that body, it's no longer your head. You won't have any attachment to it. So what they do with it will be irrelevant. Understand? When your spirit leaves your body, it's with God. Instantly. And it ain't coming back to your body. Well, you're welcome. I want you to be thinking about it. That's why I'm here, to make you think about it, to make you know it. Now you understand the severity of why I'm trying to do this. It's a serious thing. I'm going to give the rest of my life to this, however long that is, because it's my job. God gave me the knowledge, and I'm supposed to speak it. So I'll speak it. And when they come for me, if they come for me, I'll speak it to them too, right as they're swinging. It may be. It's eventually going to go back to the dust one way or another. Know that. Nobody gets out of this world alive. Nobody. Except for Isaiah and Enoch. Those are the only two. And possibly Melchizedek. I don't know. There's not a lot written about that guy. Only 2 lines that I can find. The reason that I know he's important is because of his name and what it means and how Abraham reacted to him. What he did in those days meant something very special. It should mean that now, but it doesn't. Because we've given up on common sense, I guess. No, you're not going to live forever. Not here. You'll live forever elsewhere. But you have to die first. The thing you're missing, the thing you don't understand, and it's hard to grasp, but it's the truth. This body is just a vessel. It is not the end-all be-all of your spirit. When this body breaks, your spirit does not die. You do not cease to exist. You go forth to heaven. For you, it will be a split second. You'll close your eyes and open them, and you'll be in heaven. It may be a few hundred years or a few thousand years, but you will never know. It is hard to concentrate after eating 5 wings, 4 pieces of pizza, 3 bites of salad, and 2 brownies, and a partridge in a pear tree. Oh, yeah, I'd say so. I'd be full, too. Don't eat that much. I would have been happy with the 5 wings. But just know that your spirit never dies. Unless you get thrown into the lake of fire, and then your spirit will die. That's the second death. God said, take no fear of any man that can kill your body, but fear that can kill your soul. That would be God. Also, 3 bourbons and Cokes. 3 bourbons and Cokes. I wouldn't mind a bourbon right now. Flush this stuff out of my system. See, feel my forehead. I'm burning up. Wow. You know what I've eaten today? A cookie. And I didn't want that. I only ate it because I knew I needed to eat something. I might eat me a piece of pizza a little bit later on tonight. I don't know yet. I hadn't decided. I think I'm just going to go back to bed and pass out. Oh, yeah. I'm going to. Believe thee. Just trying to make it to 9:30. Unless you're done with me. Yes, I do. That would be wonderful. You want to come make me some? I know how to make it. I just need to get to the store to get me some meal. I'll probably do that tomorrow. I've got everything else. Onions and chicken bouillon, salt, pepper. You never learn how? Well, get you a bowl of a saucepan, fill it about half full of water, a couple of cups, maybe a cup of water. Get a good handful of meal, or half a cup of meal, and pour in it till it thickens up. Put your bouillon cube, some salt and pepper, and then take an onion and cut it in half. Take one of the halves and take you a spoon and scrape the top of it and let the juice and the crumbs that come off of it go into the water. Just keep scraping it till you got a nice little dip in there and get you a good amount, like maybe a tablespoon full of onion, scraping it like that. and you'll get juice and flakes that'll come off of it. That's called essence of onion. And you boil all that and use a whisk and beat it fine till there's no lumps in it. And when it starts thickening up, take it off and pour it in a bowl and eat it. And that will cure what ails you, I promise. I have been so sick that I could not raise my head. I had the worst flu known to man. I'd been in bed for 2 weeks. I was about to die. And my mama came from North Carolina to Georgia and made me some meal soup. And before I finished a bowl, I was sitting up on the edge of the bed eating it and asking for some more. That's how good that shit is. Trust me on that. Eat a jalapeno. It may be hot, but it has a lot of vitamin C more vitamin C than anything else. Then drink some strong bourbon. After that, take a hammer and hit yourself upside the head. That's a good cure. Yeah, that sounds like it might be. Sports update. Braves 2 and Dodgers 0 in the bottom of the third. So just to recap, maybe a cup of water, maybe 2 cups. Just kind of feel your way into it. And maybe a half a cup of meal, or however much you think it will take to thicken up and be thick. 1 chicken bouillon cube, 2 if you're saucy. A tablespoon of essence of onion, salt and pepper. Oh, and a little bit of butter. Put maybe a teaspoon of butter in it. That'll make it go down smooth. It does work. If this fever hadn't broke by tomorrow, I'm going to make me some. April will hit you with a hammer. She's already knifed you. Well, she threatened me with a knife. My definition of blasphemy? Blasphemy is taking the Lord's name in vain. That's what the word means. And that does not mean saying goddamn or Jesus Christ. What it means is like a preacher saying that God told me to tell you something when God did not tell them to tell you something. That's taking the Lord's name in vain. When they go out and preach for your money and they tell you that God said this and God said that, and, you know, all you got to do is send me your money and he'll bless you. That's wrong. That's taking the Lord's name in vain. Don't tell people God told you to do something when he did not tell you to do it. Don't say God said something when he didn't say it. That's blasphemy. Don't call yourself God. Don't use his name in vain. Hope that helps. Also, don't say goddamn if you can help it. And don't say anything negative ever about the Holy Spirit. Ever. You're not supposed to do that at all. You hold that in high regard always. Nope, there's pretty much it. I don't think there's any more to it. The atheist has a cure for your flu. Just don't believe you have the flu and you will feel better. If only. Yeah, I do the same thing. Hard habit to break, but I'm trying. April says, lol, Kevin. She's laughing out loud at you, sir. But I think a true Christian wouldn't blaspheme in the first place. Yeah, I think that if you're a Christian, you know not to make fun of the Holy Spirit, and you know not to claim God told you to do something you shouldn't do, that he didn't tell you to do, or claim that he said something that he didn't say. Know that every time God told a man to go into battle, they won. Every time God did not tell man to go into battle, they lost. Oh, she is sitting next to me and looks as beautiful as always. That's sweet. Well, make you some meal soup and drink lots of fluids. I got lots of water right here. Liquids. Got to get you better for tomorrow night podcast. That's right. Well, whether I'm better or not, I'll be here. Promise. Don't have to be feeling good to do the job. You just have to do the job. But I'm trying to feel better. I've been drinking lots of fluid and peeing a lot and staying in bed and staying covered up and trying to sweat it out. I've had to flop sweats for 2 days. Wake up covered in sweat. Have to change the covers, change pillows. It's not fun. She has a knife. She's a straight razor-toting woman. Don't let her cut you now. Thank you, honey. I'll get better. I've been trying to come down with it for a couple of weeks, and I finally got me. I need to take a lot of vitamin C and a lot of vitamin D and a lot of zinc. Get that out of my system. I'm just sorry I didn't feel like shaving tonight. I look like a hobo. My skin is so sensitive, I didn't want to get it wet and then strike it with a razor. That's the nature of having a fever, though. Make you feel like you got paper thin skin. It's the only time I've ever been burning up and freezing cold at the same time. I've got a little bare back and body. Tomorrow I'll go get something stronger. I couldn't tell. I had no idea. Idea of what? Elvis has a fever. Uh-huh. Thank you, baby. Thank you very much. He got fever. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. He gave me fever. Fever. That's all right, hound dog. I mean, that's all right, mama. And you ain't nothing but a hound dog. Ain't nothing but a hound dog. Crying all the time. Why don't you go to bed? I'm going. I'm starting to get delirious anyway. All right, folks. One more time, like, subscribe, and share. Press the bell icon. PayPal.me/JakeJohnsonBand. Follow links in the description below. I love you. Peace out. Have a great night. And I'll see you.